Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're skipping the usual fluff and diving straight into something wild. We've got our hands on a highly technical 1,100-page dossier that literally details exactly how the ultra-wealthy shield their fortunes. It's kind of like a complete map of a parallel society. We're talking about the legal, financial, and geographic loopholes that, honestly, most of us don't even know exist. So let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this right off the bat in the preface. The tone feels almost like a spy thriller. It literally says, this book is not a how-to manual, it is an expose. We are looking at a completely comprehensive technical reference on tax planning, asset protection, and dynastic wealth architecture. This is the kind of stuff the general public is just never meant to see. So, who exactly are we talking about here? 710,000. That is the staggering, tiny global population of ultra-high net worth individuals, or UHNWIs. This incredibly small group controls a massive chunk of the world's investable assets. They operate in this invisible kingdom, totally playing by their own set of rules and basically bypassing the everyday cues, chores, and tax obligations that the rest of us just accept as inevitable. Which brings us to Section 1. Welcome to the Invisible Kingdom, the operating logic of the 0.01%. Moving into Section 2, the passport portfolio, or sovereignty as a commodity. Now, what's really interesting here is how the operating logic of this top fraction of a percent is grounded completely in extreme mobility and legal arbitrage. They just don't think like residents of a single nation. For them, a passport isn't some birthright tied to where you happen to be born. No, it's a strategic asset class. You've got this entire menu of Caribbean and global citizenship programs to pick from. Take St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, boasting the world's oldest citizenship by investment program. This is not theoretical at all. It's a highly documented global marketplace where you can carefully acquire a second, third, or even fourth identity. Why? To hedge against political risk, bypass currency controls, and, of course, legally avoid taxes. Let's rapid fire through this exclusive menu of citizenships so you can see exactly how this works. You want a passport from Vanuatu? That'll run you around $130,000 to $180,000, and it is the fastest route out there. We're talking just 30 to 90 days. Then you have Nauru offering this newer, incredibly affordable climate resilience program starting at just 90 grand. Meanwhile, places like St. Kitts offer intense privacy for a $100,000 bond, and the UAE over in Dubai offers a 0% tax environment paired with world-class infrastructure. When you think about the massive global tax benefits these unlock, those price tags are absolute bargains. But it doesn't stop at just buying passports. The elite pursue these pathways that most of us can't even fathom. They're after true diplomatic immunity. I'm talking about things like the ultra-exclusive crimson passports of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. There are literally only 500 of those in circulation. They also acquire titles like honorary consuls, or they meticulously build what the text refers to as a Jewish passport portfolio. This means leveraging complex heritage and restitution laws from countries like Spain, Portugal, Germany, and Austria just to gain highly strategic European access. All right, moving on to Section 3, fortresses of wealth and subterranean vaults. So shifting gears from borders to the impenetrable offshore architecture where this wealth actually lives. You really have to consider the stark contrast here. Your ordinary taxpayer is tied to one single jurisdiction, pays their standard income tax, and is completely vulnerable to local creditors. The global citizen, though, they operate completely differently. They use instruments like the Cook Islands Day 1 protection, or they'll hold their wealth in Nevis LLCs. What this does, and it's honestly brilliant in a ruthless way, is separate legal ownership from the actual benefit. It literally forces any creditors to travel across the globe and relitigate under foreign laws just to even attempt to touch those assets. But here is a truly fascinating twist for you. Offshore is sometimes right here in the United States. Just look at the Wyoming LLC and Trust, which is often called the American offshore. Wyoming actually operates as a massive tax haven. It features this wild 1,000-year rule against perpetuities for multi-generational planning, absolute anonymity for LLC members, and absolutely no state income or capital gains tax. So you don't always need to fly off to a tropical island to hide your wealth. And that transitions perfectly into Section 4, the ultimate tax playbook, avoiding the inevitable. The dossier lays out this highly clinical process for exactly how to do this. Step 1 is legally terminating your tax residence in your current country, which sure, sometimes requires paying an upfront exit tax. Step 2 is officially establishing that tax residence in a new, much more favorable jurisdiction. But Step 3 Step 3 is absolutely critical today. It's all about proving economic substance. Because the OECD is now aggressively attacking those fake letterbox companies, the ultra-wealthy have to actually deploy staff, rent real offices, and set up genuine operations in these zero-tax jurisdictions. That's how they make the strategy completely bulletproof.
And this brilliantly illustrates what is perhaps the most infamous wealth loophole in existence. Right there in the table of contents from the dossier, you see Chapter 32. The buy, borrow, die strategy. Make no mistake, this is the absolute cornerstone of generational wealth retention.
Let's break down exactly how buy, borrow, die actually works. So instead of selling appreciating assets, which of course triggers massive capital gains taxes, the ultra-wealthy use securities-backed lines of credit. They just borrow liquid cash against those assets. And since borrowed money isn't legally considered income, it is completely tax-free. When they eventually pass away, those exact same assets transfer to their heirs with what's called a step-up in basis. That effectively erases the historical capital gains taxes entirely. It's wild, right? It's basically a perfectly legal perpetual motion machine for avoiding taxes. But the landscape is always evolving. So welcome to Section 5, Crypto and the New Frontier, Tokenizing the Kingdom.
You see, the ultra-wealthy aren't just relying on old-school trusts anymore. They are aggressively adapting to blockchain technology, the digital nomad lifestyle, and the tokenization of illiquid assets. We're looking at a whole new breed of crypto tax havens. The UAE is pretty much the absolute zero-tax global choice across the board. Then you've got Portugal offering the strategic one-year HODL rule. That means if you hold the crypto for over 365 days, boom, your tax rate drops to 0. Singapore protects private investors with 0 capital gains tax, and El Salvador just exempts crypto entirely because they treat it as legal tender.
But transparency is definitely catching up fast, and global authorities are launching a massive regulatory crackdown. By 2026, the IRS is deploying Form 1099-DA to strictly track acquisition costs and pierce that crypto anonymity. On a global scale, the OECD is rolling out CARF, the Crypto Asset Reporting Framework, specifically to close these reporting loopholes. And how are the ultra-wealthy responding? Well, they're moving into tokenizing real estate to fractionalize assets and utilizing entirely new structures like Wyoming's DUNA, which actually provides a legal framework for decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs. It is literally an ongoing arms race. Which brings us to our final act, Section 6, Building a Forever Dynasty and the 1,000-Year Plan.
Because ultimately, all of this, it isn't just about avoiding taxes today, it's about ensuring wealth survives for a millennium. So the crucial point is this one singular guiding philosophy: own nothing, control everything. The dossier gets into how legendary families like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and the Onassis family use these incredibly complex waterfall structures. We're talking offshore living trusts that own life insurance, which in turn feeds into manager LLCs and private family banks. By legally separating themselves from direct personal ownership, they maintain absolute control over these vast empires, but without any of the tax burdens or liabilities of actually owning them on paper.
However, there's a flip side. As we can see in the details covering the Common Reporting Standard, or CRS, there's this really intense ongoing tension between these private wealth fortresses and modern global transparency regimes. Between FATCA and the United States and the CRS globally, authorities are continuously trying to design new anti-avoidance measures. They're constantly trying to crack open these impenetrable family offices.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to consider. We've explored the subterranean vaults, the passport portfolios, and these 1,000-year trusts. But in a modern world characterized by total digital transparency, AI-driven tracking, and aggressive global tax crackdowns, how long can the invisible kingdom truly remain hidden? Or, will they simply rewrite the rules all over again? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the architecture of the world around you.